to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, October 1st, 2018. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Patrick Murphy. Patrick, my friend, what a comeback by the Buckeyes to beat Penn State 27-26 Saturday night. Buckeyes, of course, down by 12 with 8 minutes remaining, and they pull out the win with 2 late touchdown drives. I mean, it reminded me so much of Ohio State's comeback win at Michigan in 2005 when Troy Smith led the Buckeyes on 2 late TD drives to pull out that win. I mean, we could be talking about this Penn State win for a long, long time, Patrick.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at how the game started with, the offense struggling so much, and we've been talking quite a bit about how this offense has looked great, how the defense has been the issue, and you come out, you can't get the ball really moving against Penn State, and credit to the defense because Penn State could have been up much bigger than they were, in that first half. I mean, they get down inside the 30, I believe it was, 3 separate times, and the defense is able to hold Penn State to field goals, and, you're looking at a 10-7 or a 13-7 halftime score as opposed to something that could have been way worse. And then that touchdown right before halftime from J.K. Dobbins, Ohio State gets that turnover. Tough Borland forces the fumble, and, they're in a good position to get in the end zone, but you've got to move the ball, and the screen pass works there. And then that, I think, really set them up for the second half. It took some momentum away from Penn State. They come out of the locker room, they get the ball, and, you're able to start to figure things out. It wasn't the prettiest performance, but when you're playing a team like Penn State that's, as good as they are, and I do think Penn State's a very good team, and you're playing on the road in that environment, you just want to get out there alive, and that's what Ohio State did.
They sure did. And let's talk about some of the big moments, big plays, just guys that stepped up in general. When we talk about guys that stepped up in general, I mean, Chase Young had his coming out party. I mean, Chase Young,
sure,
there's so much hype about him, and he showed flashes of it leading into this game. You almost could say that maybe he was overhyped entering the Penn State game. Well, those days are over. I mean, he, especially with Nick Bosa out, with some of the other guys banged up, and we'll get into that. I mean, they needed him more than ever. And he was dominant. I mean, he was dominant out there. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. I thought he had 4 tackles for loss, but they only credited him with 3 only. And made other plays, batted down balls twice, including once on 4th down, which is basically a turnover. I mean, the guy played out of his mind, Patrick.
He did, and I think the stats don't even do it justice to how good he was. And this is what Ohio State needed and what Ohio State expected from him. Nick Bosa obviously not there, and maybe the game's different if Nick Bosa is in this game, but they needed somebody to step up. Dre'Mont Jones has been good, and he was good in this game, but Chase Young was a beast. You mentioned the tackles and the sacks and whatnot, but the pass breakups I thought were really big. You don't see that. We haven't seen that at least a ton from him, and twice he gets in there, knocks balls down, and it was just a tear. And then obviously the play at the end of the game, I went back and watched that because we were down on the field at that point, so I didn't get a clear view of it. And I think if he doesn't come to the inside instead of rushing to the outside, they probably pick up that first down there with Miles Sanders. And I think that's what Penn State was looking for, was to try and avoid the pass rush to get to McSorley. That's why they gave the ball to Sanders there, since McSorley had such a big day. I'm expecting him to be able to pick up 5 yards up the middle, and we can debate that all night long, but that's not what we're here for. If Chase Young doesn't come on a less traditional pass rush, I guess, or a run rush, I guess we'd say, then I think they probably get that. But he gets there, makes the tackle, and gets the ball back to the Buckeyes. That's a play that probably won't get talked about nearly as much from Ohio State fans as maybe the Binjimen Victor play or some of the other ones, but that was huge. If they pick up a first down there, they're only down by 1. They're probably moving down the field and getting that field goal to win. So Chase was big all night, but I really think that play deserves a lot of credit, not just for him because obviously he made it, but the play call. They took the timeout. Greg Schiano wanted to see how Penn State was going to line up. Obviously, Penn State takes a timeout too, and they kind of go back and forth there. But Ohio State just handled that really smartly, I thought, and credit to everyone on the defense for that move.
You mentioned Ben Victor's 47-yard touchdown. That's one we're going to be talking about for a long time. I mean, he made a fantastic play on that. Just the yak on that was ridiculous, and that's not really what he's known for. And just the wide receivers in general. I mean, they're so they block so well. They're so veteran. I mean, they had some drops early. They had 3 drops early. Well, the wide receivers had 2 drops. One was Rashad Berry had a drop that led to the only interception of the night. But so early I thought the wide receivers were a little shaky, and then they're so good. Like I said, you don't know which guy's going to step up, although it seems like KJ Hill steps up every game. He had the winning touchdown. But, just talk about Ben Victor's big play in the wide receivers.
That play was a backbreaker, I think. And, Urban Meyer and Ryan Day talked after the game about how that changed the belief on the sideline. Well, I think it did the opposite for Penn State. Just the way it happened, Dwayne Haskins almost getting sacked, steps up in the pocket, needs to get the ball out, throws it to a covered Ben Victor against a senior cornerback, and, he goes up in the air, makes the catch, shakes a tackle, makes a man miss, and then the blockers just kind of come together. Paris Campbell, I know Johnny Dixon got in at the end. I can't remember who else. I think there were 3 blockers out there, but not only the ability for those guys to block, and obviously we've talked before about how unselfish these guys are and their willingness to commit to that, which not all receivers are, but Ben Victor's ability to read where the blockers are and get there. And you mentioned this isn't what he's been known for. I think it should be. He has the ability to make these catches, and then the speed and the size to break tackles and then run into the end zone. So this is what I think Ohio State thought they were getting from a guy when he signed with the class a few years ago. And, he's made some big plays, don't get me wrong, catches in the end zone and whatnot. I think he's got 10 touchdowns now for his career. But I think we need to see more of this. And, Ryan Day alluded to it after the game that this could be a defining play for him and one that really starts something. But, it was certainly a backbreaker for Penn State. It changed the belief on the sideline for Ohio State. I think it changed the belief probably for any Buckeye fan watching on television. And you could just feel in the stadium after that play happened that, okay, this isn't looking good. It's a 5-point game, and there's still plenty of time left. So, that's certainly a play, like you said, we're going to be talking about for a long time.
The D-line's turned into a mash unit, as I alluded to earlier. We know about Nick Bosa. He's out till at least November. Some people are opining his Ohio State career could be over, although I think if the Buckeyes are playing for all the marbles, I certainly think he'll be back unless he has a setback, which is always a possibility. But presuming he does not have a setback, I do think Nick Bosa will play later this year. I want you to address that, if you agree or disagree. Also, just obviously Dre'Mont Jones got banged up in the game. He could barely walk off the field. He had to be helped off with one of his teammates helping him off. Urban called it a sprained ankle. Apparently, Dre'Mont was seen in a walking boot yesterday, so we'll get a chance to ask Urban about that 11:45 a.m. today. Robert Landers is banged up. He missed the previous game. He didn't even start this past game. Devon Hamilton was out there. Robert Landers could barely even move at one point, looked like to me. I mean, he could barely get off the field. So you have Dre'Mont Jones, Robert Landers, and Nick Bosa, just 3 of the best defensive linemen in the country banged up right now, but the schedule gets a lot easier. So just your thoughts on all things D-line related.
Yeah, first of all, with Nick Bosa, I think he'll be back, especially like you said, if they are going to, assuming that the surgery went well and when they go check it, everything is healing as it's supposed to. But, if you saw his tweet before the Penn State game, about wanting to be out there with his brothers, and, there was a little video with it where he taps his armband and whatnot. I think, given that Joey came here and what Joey accomplished and just how invested that family has been in the Ohio State program these last 6 years, I think that Nick is legitimately a Buckeye despite coming from Florida, and he, wants to end his Ohio State career, on the field and not watching from the sideline. I also think that, he wants to win a national title. I don't think that. I know that. He made that very clear early on, and obviously Ohio State is in position to do that. And Nick Bosa makes them a much better team defensively, and that obviously increases the chances of them making that run. As far as the rest of the defensive line, like you said, I think they'll be fine. There's time to not rest guys, but, if guys are banged up against, the likes of Indiana and Minnesota and the rest of the teams on the schedule over the next month or so, I think you can comfortably play, Devon Hamilton and other guys and get those guys more snaps and whatnot. We talked to Dre'Mont Jones after the game, and he didn't talk much about the injury, but did look to be moving okay. I would speculate, and again, it's just speculation, that the boot was cautionary. He seemed to be moving fine to me. I'm no doctor, but it didn't look like he was in any sort of serious pain when he was walking back to the locker room. I also imagine if it was something serious, that they wouldn't have brought him out and made him stand there with a bunch of media people around him underneath the stadium. So we'll see on that. Obviously, like you said, we'll talk to Urban today. But the good news is Ohio State doesn't have a serious game for a while, but still have to take these games serious, as we learned last year against Iowa, coming off the big Penn State win. No win is guaranteed if the Buckeyes don't focus in and make sure they handle their business.
One thing that drives me crazy, and I love Urban Meyer overall, is his refusal to use quarterback sneaks. And I'm sure he's going to love that I'm going to question him about this today. I'm sure he's going to love some schlub reporter asking him, about his strategies when it comes to football. He's only won 3 national titles, and someone like me is going to be questioning him. But and he's been asked about it before, so I kind of know the answer that they've given before. Especially we asked Tom Herman about it when he was at Ohio State, and the answer is always, well, we don't really practice it. We're in the shotgun all the time, so we don't want to risk being under center in a crucial situation, because obviously if you're doing it, it's a big play. Well, my answer to that is then practice it, because
Absolutely.
of all football plays, the quarterback sneak is, yes, it's elementary. It's also the most effective when you look at the advanced analytics. I mean, the quarterback sneak is arguably the most effective play in football when you're talking about you don't want to run it on 4th and 2, but 4th and inches, which the Buckeyes twice had 4th and inches. Twice they did the slow, once they handed it off and barely got it, once they kept it and got stuffed. Both times they could have just lined up under center with your big 6'7", 310-pound center, and your big, quarterback 6'3" at least. I think Dwayne's more like 6'4", 220 pounds. Run the quarterback sneak. I just don't get it at all, Patrick.
I don't either. And obviously Twitter was abuzz after those plays about why they don't run the quarterback sneak. And you said it specifically that they don't practice it, and that's the excuse they've given for years. I agree. Practice it. I mean, you look. Urban is
right.
a good friend with big Bill Belichick, the Patriots. That's a team that has used that with Tom Brady to perfection over this dynasty run of dominance. And we saw JT Barrett last year in the bowl game go under center for that trick play that they did to Paris Campbell. So they have gone under center before. Obviously, when they kneel the ball, they go under center, and that's pretty
right.
good.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, right. In the victory formation, they're not in the shotgun. Exactly.
No. Yeah, and I don't understand it. It seems to me, especially with a guy like Dwayne Haskins, who I believe in high school took snaps under center at times. You can't do this. And if it takes, away from a few other practice reps at practice, or just have the guys go out there and practice it a handful of times at the end of each practice. If you're concerned about fumbling the ball, now granted, you do have Michael Jordan, who is a new center, so maybe he hasn't practiced those kind of snaps as often, but it just seems it's much easier to receive the ball that way in my mind than it does to snap it, 4 or 5 yards back when you're in shotgun. I don't know. It seems like something that they need to have in their arsenal. I don't know why you wouldn't, as a team. You get in these situations, and we could have been talking about how various plays that cost the team if this game goes the other way, and that would have been one of them I would have brought up. Is you have Dwayne Haskins on 4th and inches, and you don't go under center and sneak it. I don't know. I agree with you. It's something that they need to have. I'm glad you're going to ask Coach Meyer about it today, because I think that's something people want to know, and I think it's something that they really need to consider practicing if they really don't do that.
Great stuff from Patrick Murphy. I really appreciate it, Patrick, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate that as well. Let's hear the Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.